I'm going to read something to you. This is unusual for me to do this in the middle of the song service, but I believe this is time to do this. About 2 weeks ago, a man came walking into this church through those doors in shorts and a t-shirt after dropping off a prostitute right down the road. He came into this church. The man's from Louisiana, very well-built man, very handsome, very sharp man, in sin. And he really doesn't know why he walked into Brownsville after dropping off a prostitute. That's usually not what you do in sin. But he came in, and this is happening to a lot of people here. You're sensing the presence of God. Many of you are away from God. You're either backslidden or you've never known God. Others are Christians that you're struggling with the sin or this, and you're asking God to wash it. But this man walked in and began to cry as Linda was leading in worship. Just cried all the way through it. Now a sinner, cried all the way through worship, cried all the way through the message, and couldn't wait for the altar call. This is right after dropping off a prostitute. This man was into drugs, alcohol. He wrote this letter. I want you to hear it. He wrote this 4 days ago. It's Sunday morning, and I imagine you're all receiving God's love at church. I wish I was there with you. I have never felt such a loss as I have leaving you. Today I find myself southbound, tailing a large offshore platform. He works in the Gulf of Mexico on oil rigs. I have been stripped of all my positions, my position as a captain, and I've been demoted to deckhand. This is a retaliation for leaving to join your cult. And he got that in quotations. If you've ever been on an oil rig, it is really not a place of worship. It's a place of loneliness, a place of drinking, a place of perversion. And this is where this man went from the Brownsville Revival. After getting saved, he goes back to the oil rigs. The other day, someone commented that I had been brainwashed. I smiled and said, that's what we have been praying for. Satan's attacks are constant and harsh. With each defeat, I find myself in prayer. And with each victory, I find more faith. I feel like I'm reading a letter from the Apostle Paul. This is so unreal. My mother and my father are ecstatic about me giving up my life for God. They said that God had been leading me in your direction for quite some time. Satan fills my head with doubt constantly. If I die homeless and hungry in the Lord's service, I will die happy. Now keep in mind who's writing this. A man who's just been saved 2 weeks. A man who dropped off a prostitute across the street, came in his shorts and a t-shirt, and got so saved. So saved. He says, a few days ago I was driving my boat up through the bay, and a few miles in front of me was a tornado about to form. I watched as it grew wider and darker, working its way to the ground. Although I was in no danger, I felt compelled to pray for the people of the nearby town. It was going to hit them for sure. I prayed for the people, and then I cursed the roots of the tornado. Within 2 minutes after I prayed, the tornado collapsed. My first instinct was that it was strange weather, but ultimately it became a lesson from God, one, the power of faith. I now know nothing is beyond God. And I'm going to close. Listen to this. With each passing day, more changes are evident to me. I have new ways of thinking and love for the people I hate. He goes on to talk about Robert. There have been several people in this church that are discipling this young man, doing everything they can. He called me before leaving for the rig. He left out of Pensacola and he said, Steve, I don't know how to say this, man. Thank you, man. And I said, listen, it's just thank you for coming. He goes, no, you don't understand. My whole life's been changed, man. Listen. He said, Robert is like a boxing coach. This is Robert Lowell. I'm not going to name all the people he names. I used to have. He's like a boxing coach that I used to have. He is strong and to the point. Brian, you're like the caring brother I never had. And Joanne is like my mother, whose words and prayers wrap peace around me like a blanket. Since October 3rd, I have belonged to God. No drugs, no alcohol have crossed my lips. And no pornography. And no pornography has poisoned my mind. I have never been so sure of anything in my life. I love all of you with a love I've never possessed before, and I can't wait to come home to you. I won't lie, I'm scared. Where will I sleep? What happens next? Will they turn me to the streets like all the others? Right now, I can only call it faith and hope. This force that drives me back to Brownsville. I hope I will make it back to you alive. If not, you know where to find me. He signs it. He signs it, Captain Wayne Parks. Lyndall, what we're doing right here, worshiping, brought a sinner off the streets. Hardcore. We're not talking soft. This is hardcore. Wow. A hardcore sinner. Drugs, alcohol, and the depth of prostitution. This guy was a sinner. He is so on fire now. And if you're in this room and you fall into any category of being away from God, you're in the right place. And God can do what in your life, in a matter of moments, what he did in Captain Wayne Park's life in a matter of moments. He was so transformed. I want to tell you why, friend. He touched the hem of his garment. He touched Jesus. And tonight, don't leave out of this place without touching him, letting him